One.
Hey, everybody, take two. Little break, and we are back. Perspectives in Primary Care with yours truly, Dr. Carol Penn, Dr. Dietrich Gorman, and Dr. Khadijah Rapp. We're going to introduce ourselves. Hey, ladies, they always say thumbs up. And we are going to just roll in tonight's show. So, Dr. Dietrich, would you say hello and introduce yourself? Then Dr. Khadijah, then I'll do our introduction, all right?
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining. And sorry we're coming on so late, but we're here. And I'm Dr. Dietrich Gorman. I am your board certified family practice physician. I am also known as America's Relaxation Doctor. I help individuals who are stressed at work learn to relax and refocus in order to have a more healthy, productive, and fulfilled life. And I'm very honored today to be with my two friends, my two sister docs, Dr. Kadisha and Dr. Carol here tonight talking about water safety. Currently, I'm actually a family practice doctor working in West Texas, rural West Texas, and we decided to get together and talk about water safety. And Dr. Carol will talk to you more about why we're actually here talking about water safety. But it's my great pleasure to be here, and I'll just go ahead and leave it to Dr. Kadisha.
All right.
So, hey everybody, I'm Dr. Kadisha. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm Dr. Kadisha, your board certified emergency medicine physician and concierge physician. And my medical care and advice help people feel better, be safer, and make sure that medical situations aren't so emergent. And I speak on health and wellness, safety and success. And tonight I'm going to be talking about thunderstorm safety.
Yes.
Excellent. And aren't both of you ladies best-selling authors?
Oh, yes, we are.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a best-selling Amazon #1 best-selling author. Relaxed and Ready: A Simple Roadmap to Reducing Workplace Stress and Frustration. And I'll talk a little bit more at the end of our program about what is upcoming for me. And Dr. Khadijah, what's your book about?
My book is titled Help Us Help You in the Emergency Room. It's what an
Okay.
ER doctor would tell you if she only had the time.
Well, I can tell
Excellent.
everybody that everybody needs both of these books. We need to learn how to relax at work, and we need to know what to do if we are in an emergency room. And I think everybody has found themselves needing emergency room services from time to time. Well, yours truly, Dr. Carol Penn, doubly board certified in family and obesity medicine. And I am America's master meditation movement and mindset coach. And I am so excited
Nice.
to be coming to you tonight. Best-selling author myself, meditation in a time of madness for talented tweens, teens, their parents, and guardians who need to thrive. And tonight, I want to extend my gratitude to our business coach, Dr. Drayon Birch, and the Medical Moguls Academy. We are so grateful for being brought together and for learning everything that we have learned in the past year so that we can come to you and provide health and wellness education that's going to help you to optimize your life and to live your best life. So, I want to remind you
Great.
the last time that we came together, we were talking about Water International Safety Day. So, another shout out to Miriam Lynch, the Executive Director of Diversity in Aquatics, and a great big thank you to Diversity in Aquatics for your support and interest as we docs try to do our part to help the world learn about water safety, about the need and importance of learning how to swim. So if you're watching this and you don't know how to swim, would you please promise Dr. Dietrich, Khadijah, and I that you're going to learn how to swim? Pretty please, pretty please. Because the first thing
Yes.
you're going to learn how to do, you're going to learn how to swim in a controlled environment. And there are some rules and things that you need to understand about that. But when you get into the situations that we're going to be talking to you tonight about, you better have some skills. That's not where you learn, but you do learn hopefully in a pool, and that's where it starts. You're going to learn how to tread water or scull water, very important if you're in an uncontrolled water situation. You're also going to learn how to move from point A to point B in the water. So you're going to learn things like an overhand crawl, you'll learn how to backstroke, you'll learn how to float, very important. You'll save not only your life, but contribute to saving the lives of those that are with you, most likely your family members. I also want to remind you from Water Safety Day that when you swim, you want to swim as a pair and you want to swim in sight of the lifeguard. So that's an extra safety feature when you are in a controlled environment, or even when you're swimming at a beach or in a park, for example, where they do have safety professionals available to help us when we need them. I want you to look before you leap into any body of water. You don't want to go into shallow water or water where there's rocks and debris on the bottom, and you can hurt yourself very, very badly. So make sure you know what you're leaping into. And you also want to follow the posted rules. If it's at a pool, if it's at a beach, if it's at a lake or a river, public parks have rules posted. They're there for a reason.
A reason, right?
So it's very important. If you are in an uncontrolled water situation, open water, river, lake, the ocean, please pack and wear a life jacket. It's a lot harder to keep yourself afloat in waters where there isn't control, and there pretty much isn't any control much outside of a swimming pool. And then you want to think. So you do want to know what to do if you get into trouble in the water. And those skills are going to be very handy if you ever find yourself in any of the situations that we're going to be talking to you tonight. And finally, if you see someone in the water and you notice that person is in trouble, for goodness sakes, don't go in yourself. I want you to look around and throw something to that person. A towel, you hold on to the other end, a rope, a tree branch, anything that can reach the person, become an extension of your arm while you remain safe and anchored, and then pull that person to you. Unless you are a trained lifeguard, trust and believe you don't have the skill set to save someone else who is drowning in the water or panicking in the water. The best thing you can do is to reach out to them and pull them to safety using a rope, a stick, a belt, a towel, anything that can be an extension. All right, so that's just a reminder of what we came to you and shared in May. Now, I'm going to go into flooding. What's flooding? Flooding occurs where suddenly there was supposed to be dry land and now there's water on top of it. That, in a nutshell, is a flood. Now, I live in a coastal area of New Jersey, and a lot of people don't realize that we have over 1,000 miles of shoreline, and I live
Wow.
between the banks of a river and the Atlantic Ocean. So guess what? I'm in a flood zone. I've been in a couple. I was a first responder 7 years ago during Hurricane Sandy. I think Dr. Dietrich's going to be talking to us about hurricanes.
Yeah.
And there was, unfortunately, a lot of property damage, loss of life, and also some life-threatening illnesses that came out of being exposed to water that was laden with bacteria. And I'm going to talk about that at the end of my talk, because there's other things beside the water that you also have to be aware of. So Dr. Khadijah and Dr. Dietrich, were you aware that there are 4 types of floods?
No.
I really didn't know.
No, I didn't know.
I just thought if you flood, you flood.
Right. I live in a flood zone and didn't know there were 4 distinct types. So learned a lot as I prepared my part of the talk this evening. So there, one, fluvial floods, that's Fluvial. Two, pluvial floods, Pluvial. So they rhyme, fluvial, pluvial. There's flash flooding, and there's coastal flooding or storm surges. So those are the four types. Now let's learn a little bit about each of them. So fluvial floods are river floods. A fluvial or river flood occurs when the water level in a river, lake, or stream rises and overflows onto the surrounding banks, shores, and neighboring land. The water level rise could be due to excessive rain or snow melt. Now, we see both of these in this area. So that's your fluvial flood or river flood. And oftentimes, one is able to get out of harm's way. They can occur pretty quickly, but you can kind of see it happening. So the damage from a river flood can be widespread as the overflow affects smaller rivers downstream, which can cause dams and dikes to break and swamp nearby areas. So fairly common when you live on the banks of a river. Now we have pluvial floods or surface water floods. A pluvial or surface water flood occurs when heavy rainfall creates a flood independent of an overflowing water body. A common misconception about flood is that you must be located near a body of water to be at risk. And a lot of people think that, oh, there's no water around here, so, I'm safe. Yet pluvial flooding can happen in any location, urban or rural. Even in areas with no water bodies in the vicinity, there are two common causes of pluvial flooding. One, intense rain saturates an urban drainage system. The system becomes overwhelmed and water flows out into streets and nearby structures. Two, runoff or flowing water from rain falling on elevated terrain, hillsides that are unable to absorb the water. Hillsides and recent forest fires are notorious sources of pluvial floods. Think California fires, as are areas where the natural ground has been paved. So think those malls and all that pavement and the scenes that we see there when flooding occurs there. So pluvial floods occur gradually, which provides people time to go indoors or leave the area. The level of water is low to the ground, rarely more than 1 meter, and causes no immediate threat to lives. However, depending on the flooded area, it may cause significant economic damage, and we've certainly seen that. Flash flooding. Flash floods are caused by extreme rainfall events or sudden release of water over a short period of time. They occur within minutes to hours after a heavy rain event and produce raging torrents of water that move with great speed. Think the floods in Houston.
Right.
Yes.
While the majority of flash floods are triggered by torrential rain falling within a short amount of time, like during these intense storms, they can also occur even if no rain has fallen via sudden release of water from a levee. Think New Orleans. Damage to a dam or by sudden release of debris or ice dam upstream. Flash floods are very dangerous and destructive, not only because of the force of the water, but also the hurtling debris that is often swept up in the flow. Understanding the process of flash floods and where they occur can reduce the human toil and cost of property and reduce risk to first responders. And number 4, coastal flood. This is my favorite because every year where I live, we get tragic local news. Storm is approaching. There is the Atlantic Ocean in all her glory, and she is beautiful when she's angry. And people decide they want to go to the beach, and then they're going to be on the beach, and they're going to watch the storm. The lightning's coming down. Somebody going to talk about the lightning, right, Dr. Khadijah?
Yes, ma'am.
They're going to walk out on the jetty, the natural occurring beautiful rock jetties, which have seaweed on them, and when they're wet, extraordinarily slippery. They go out on these beautiful natural rock jetties. They walk to the end and they watch the water change colors. They look at the frothy caps on the waves as the storm is getting closer and closer. The waves begin to get larger and larger, and then suddenly my goodness, what do you think happens? Please,
Yep.
please, people, if you live near a beach and they say a storm is approaching, I need you to take cover, not go out on the jetty. Promise me. Coastal flooding is the inundation of land areas along the coast by seawater. Common causes of coastal flooding are high tide, tsunamis, and storm surge. Storm surge is created when high winds from a windstorm push water on shore. This is the leading cause of coastal flooding and often the greatest threat associated with a windstorm. In this type of flood, water overwhelms low-lying land and often causes devastating loss of life and property. The severity of coastal flood is determined by several factors, including the strength, size, speed, and direction of the windstorm. The onshore and offshore topography also plays an important role. To determine the probability and magnitude of a storm surge, coastal flood models consider this information in addition to data from historical storms that have affected the area. So again, please, floods are nothing to take advantage of. If you're driving and you see a standing body of water under an underpass, don't drive in it. Don't drive in it. We had two gentlemen with near loss of life. That's what happened. Their engines flooded out. They got stuck. Fortunately, both of them were able to get a window down and swim out of their car. But it's not to be played with. And last but not least, for my part of the talk tonight, whenever we have these flooded situations, the water is often filled with bacteria, particularly in some of the pluvial floods and the fluvial floods where the sewage systems get affected and then all that debris and sewage is released into the water. Now, if you are exposed, there's lots of different bacterial illnesses that you could get, and I'm sure Dr. Khadijah could tell you all about how to take care of the various forms of diarrhea that can make you quite ill and bring you to the emergency room. But I'm going to talk about 3 tonight that are common when people are exposed to floodwaters. So number 1, E. coli or Escherichia coli can cause nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and diarrhea if consumed in contaminated water. Symptoms usually appear within 1 to 8 days. So again, these are some of the aftermaths if you get a mouthful of contaminated water. Number 2, hepatitis A. Hepatitis A is a serious infection and can present in your drinking water. Symptoms include dark urine, jaundice, stomach pain, fever, and fatigue. Hepatitis A has a lengthy incubation period, and symptoms might not appear until 28 days after exposure. Now, the beauty of hepatitis A is that we have a vaccination for it. Many are vaccinated as infants, but you can also be vaccinated as an adult. So this is one that you can protect yourself from well ahead of time by being vaccinated. And certainly as primary care docs, Dr. Dietrich and I will both be happy to talk to you about the importance of vaccinations. And then the third bacteria, nasty bug that can get in you if you find yourself exposed to flood water. And one of the 3 of us actually was this for Halloween. I'll let you guess which one. And that's Giardia lamblia. Giardia lamblia. Giardia lamblia is actually a parasite which causes the infection giardiasis. Symptoms include nausea, cramps, gas, and diarrhea. The incubation period for I can't ever say this word, giardiasis, is 2 weeks. So you could have been exposed a couple of weeks ago, and then all of a sudden you're like, what is wrong with me? And this is actually a parasite that has gotten inside of you. But just some things to be aware of during, some things to be aware of in the aftermath, and always, safety first, common sense, don't go into a dangerous situation. If they say evacuate, evacuate. If they say don't go to the beach or the coastlines, this is going to be a bad storm with high winds, please take that advice seriously. And if you see standing water and you're in your vehicle, back away. Please don't drive forward and go into it. Thank you so much. I learned a thing or two tonight about the 4 types of flooding, some of the
I
memory
definitely.
that can occur, and
Yes.
remembering the importance of learning how to swim and water safety. Dr. Dietrich?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Carroll, for that informative talk about flooding. I know I won't go near a standing body of water in the street after hearing that. I'm not going to risk it. So tonight I'm going to be talking about hurricanes, big body of water. But I want to just go over some brief definitions because sometimes in the news you may hear different definitions being talked about, and it's like, well, I don't know what the difference is, and so I'll just give basic brief definitions of some terms that you may be familiar with but not exactly know what the definitions are. Okay, so a hurricane is actually a large storm, a swirling storm that is typically over warm ocean waters. Okay, and I don't know if you've heard of the term cyclone or typhoon. Have y'all heard of those, right?
Yeah.
Okay, they are basically hurricanes. So the thing is, they're the same weather system. It just depends on where you are in the world, what you call them. Okay, and if you're in like the Pacific Ocean or the Eastern Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean, they're called hurricanes. If you're in like Japan, the Philippines, or India, they're called typhoons. Okay, and cyclones. So they're all the same kind of storm system, a swirling big storm over warm water, but just depending on where you are is what it's going to be called. What is a tropical storm? Have you heard of a tropical storm? And I didn't know this, before reading about this. The tropical storms, the tropical depressions, and hurricanes, they're all coming from like the same system. A tropical storm, though, is a big thunderstorm that's characterized by sustained winds like 39 to 73 miles per hour. And at this point, the storms are named. Okay, they're named. And I'll talk about that in a minute. A tropical depression is actually a big thunderstorm, and the wind speeds are actually less than 39 miles per hour. So they name them by the miles per hour that they are, and so it can develop into the big hurricanes that we are familiar with. Okay, I don't want you to confuse with a tsunami, because you see a big hurricane that's swirling around and it goes on to land, but I don't want people to confuse it with a tsunami, because a tsunami is basically a big wave that is actually formed by an underwater earthquake or a big volcano, and it sends that big rippling wave wall of water towards you. But a hurricane, tropical storm, tropical depression actually starts over warm water. Okay, and it's a big storm that happens that way. Okay. So there are categories of hurricanes. There's 5 different types or categories of hurricanes. And like I said before, they all have to do with the miles per hour. So we have anywhere between a category 1 hurricane, which is 74 miles per hour to 95. Then you have a category 2, category 3, category 4, and category 5, which the winds can get over 156 miles per hour. So that is some fast moving water. Okay. And depending on the pressure systems, if they're high pressure systems, low pressure systems, these storms just keep growing and growing and growing. Okay. And then they move on to land. And depending on how the hurricane is moving, it depends actually on what hemisphere you're in. I'm trying to remember, like if you're in the north hemisphere, it moves clockwise. If you're in the southern, it moves counterclockwise. I may have that opposite. But yeah, it depends on what hemisphere you're in. When is hurricane season? Again, that actually depends on where you are in the world. For North America, hurricane season typically is from June to November. So we are in hurricane season. I'm actually not in a hurricane area. I live like in the middle of Texas, and the most we have are like rain. We get tornadoes and stuff like that, but we don't get a whole lot of rain exactly where I am. I know Dr. Kadisha living more on the east side, so they can, they'll get all that stuff and the humidity. Okay. So one of the things I was researching about hurricanes is how do they name them, or why do they name them? Do y'all know about that? Have y'all heard about why they name them or what
Nope.
happened?
Can't wait to hear.
So it was like around in the 1950s where tropical storms and hurricanes were tracked actually by the year and the order in which they occurred. But over time, they learned to use short, easy to remember names as well as written communications to help reduce some of the confusion. Okay, because sometimes you don't have to have just one tropical storm, you may have more than one. And so it kind of got a little hard saying, oh, this was on this date, this was on that day, whoever. But if they started to name them, they can actually track them better. And there's more PR because people are going to pay attention to the names. Oh, this is Tropical Storm Dietrich. She's forming into a Hurricane Dietrich versus, Tropical Storm Kadisha or Tropical Storm Carol. So you can actually put a name with the storm that you're tracking to make it easier, not only to publicize that you need to get out of there because of tropical storm, whatever, and also it'll be less confusing for the public. Okay, so that's why they did that. And actually, it used to be named only after women, which I don't know why, but then they started naming it after men and women. So that was kind of interesting to know. Now I'm going to get into the more serious aspects. So, I talked about the different categories of the hurricanes, 1 through 5, 5 being the most severe. And with each hurricane, even tropical storms or tropical depressions, they can leave us damage. Okay. Hurricane category number 1, they definitely have damage, but they have the least amount of damage. Branches can be bent. Power outages actually may occur in a category 1 hurricane. In category 2 hurricanes, you definitely get the damage. You get the roofs flickering and moving up and down, doors shaking, windows may be broken or damaged. Those winds again go up to like 96 to 110 miles per hour. So they're really picking up. It's a lot of wind and a lot of water, okay, that's moving onto shore. The category 3 hurricanes actually have the wind speeds of 111 to 130 miles per hour. And along with the other damage that I noted previously, small buildings like the sheds and trailers and mobile homes and whatnot, they can actually be detached and destroyed in those kind of hurricanes. And even this is a point where blackouts can occur, big mass wide blackouts. The category 4 hurricanes are very, very strong. The winds can get up to 155 miles per hour. Many buildings, houses, again, mobile homes and stores, they really suffer a lot of damage and even destruction with this type of category hurricane. And then the 5th one is like the most catastrophic one. The one that you can probably equate with is maybe Hurricane Andrew. In my reading, I was looking at that one. Power lines are knocked over, big trees that are uprooted from their roots are, toppled over. Things are flying everywhere. People are definitely at risk and in danger if they're not if they're in the way of the storm. And like Dr. Carol was saying too, when they put out warnings, just follow the warnings. Don't be trying to look at them and take pictures of them because people can actually lose their lives from that. Having said that, how do you prepare for a hurricane? Prepare, because you can't really prepare for the devastation that occurs. But what you can do is be more ready. And when you see these big storms on TV, Mother Nature does not discriminate where you live, who you are, or, what you're doing. Okay. She can take out everybody. Okay. There's no discrimination. And the best thing that we can do is not only be aware, but try and prepare ahead of time, especially in hurricanes, because they can actually track them when the storm is coming.
Right.
They upgrade the storms and whatnot. They give you time to get things together and prepare for it. Whereas like a flash flood, you might not be aware of it. You might not be aware of lightning that's right there. But a hurricane, they have these hurricane evacuation routes for a reason. They have the news for a reason when they're announcing these hurricanes and these tropical storms to get people to thinking, oh, I may need to bounce. Okay. Um, so I'm going to just talk about what you can do to help prepare yourself for a hurricane if it should come to it that you need to evacuate. I took a lot of this information from FEMA.org. You can go there and take a look. They have like a nice checklist that you can do. And I'm only going to talk about a couple of the things. But one of the things you want to definitely do is know your surroundings. First off, know if you are in a hurricane area, okay? Know where the evacuation route is so that you can just say, okay, I need to go here. Make plans to secure your property, okay? Have a bag or something prepared for when you need to go. And I'm going to talk about that in more detail in just a second. You want to cover your home, your doors, your windows, so that flying debris hopefully won't break through the glass, even though sometimes that's really not enough. Consider having a safe room in your home if you don't have to evacuate, but you really want to stay away from windows and flying debris if you aren't able to hammer them up with a wood. Clear loose and clogged drains from your rain gutters and downspouts. Be sure trees and your shrubs are trimmed. There's not a lot of sharp edges on them, so just in case they fly away, you don't want them to injure someone or injure yourself. If there's you want to actually, if you have a boat or your boat is parked by a dock, you want to make sure you secure your boat. If you need to have a generator for emergencies, you need to do that. You want to just take additional steps that you and your family, including your pets, are going to be safe. But for a full and comprehensive list, you can definitely go to the FEMA website. Now, there's also one thing I like to really promote is what's called a get up and go bag. Literally, you get it and you go. Okay, it's a bag that you prepare, backpack or duffel or whatnot, that you prepare ahead of time. Of course, in a hurricane, but any other disaster that can possibly affect you and your household, fires, tornadoes, floods, hurricanes, all that. You really don't have to think about what to prepare for. You just grab that bag and go because you have everything that you need to survive for at least 3 or 4 days. So anything from water, personal hygiene products, batteries, flashlights, food, dog food. If you have your pets, have them a cute little doggy or kitty get up and go bag. And that reminds me, a lot of people sometimes say, oh no, I'm going to just wait out the storm because I'm not going to leave my dog. I'm not saying leave your dog because you don't want to leave your family members because they're part of your family. But if you have everything prepared where you don't have to think about trying to find your own belongings and looking for the dog and their belongings, you can just grab everything and go and get out of there. That's very important to have as well. Also, one big thing too is if you are required or asked to evacuate your home, think ahead of time a place where you can go. So, I mean, like, ask a family member who isn't in a hurricane zone. If the time should ever come where I need to leave my home abruptly, can I go there? Have something already lined up. Of course, like I said, not somebody who's living next door to you or someone who's in the hurricane zone because they're going to have to leave too. Right. So have someone that you know that you can rely on in case of an emergency. Okay, that's a big one because you want to have some place to go. Those shelters be definitely full with people who are seeking help. One of the best things you can do for a hurricane is heed the warnings, secure your home, prepare, and then evacuate. Just please just don't sit there waiting around for the storm to pass because you just don't know what's going to happen. So it's better to be safe than sorry. Okay.
Mhm.
And then have your get up and go bag. Okay. So that's kind of all I have to say right now. It's definitely best to be safe in any type of water emergency situation. And Dr. Khadijah is going to talk about a very severe one, thunderstorms.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Dietrich.
Yeah, awesome, Dr. Dietrich. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I was listening closely when you're talking about those get up and go bags because I definitely should have had one for Hurricane Harvey a couple years ago. Yeah, luckily I live on high ground, so But yeah, if I had been anywhere else, I would have definitely needed that.
Mhm. That's
So,
another thing, real quick.
mhm.
People in these natural disasters and stuff, you hear about like how people, like whole families kind of perish. You could just think about what could be going on in that household. Maybe there's just mass panic. Everyone's trying to see if everyone else is okay. And, no one gets out because everybody's checking on each other. So if you
And
have
trying
that,
to grab stuff.
yeah, exactly. You're trying to get things together. But if you just know where this is, get it and go, have a meeting place where y'all can get out of there, then it can really save lives, and you don't have to, sit there and suffer.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. So now for the shocking portion of this discussion. We're talking about thunderstorm safety. And while thunderstorms affect like smaller areas than hurricanes and like winter storms and flooding, and they're only 15 minutes, 15 miles in diameter and last about 30 minutes at a time, they kill more people than tornadoes. And what
Wow.
makes thunderstorms deadly? There's four things. There's one, lightning; two, the straight line winds; three, hail; and then the most deadly of all is what Dr. Carroll discussed, which is the flash flooding. And just know this, every thunderstorm has lightning. And lightning alone has kills on average about 93 people a year, and it injures 300 people nationwide each year. I thought it would have been more. It does cost several hundred million of dollars in property damage, though, each year. And flash flooding kills about 140 people annually in the U.S., and that flash flooding being due to thunderstorms. And,
Wow.
okay, so what are these damaging straight line winds? Okay, these are another threat of thunderstorms, and these are winds that are just unimpeded, and they can increase speed and exceed 100 miles an hour. And one type of straight line wind is called a downburst or a microburst, and that can cause damage equivalent to a strong tornado and be extremely dangerous to aviation. And
Oh.
that could be a reason why flights are grounded during thunderstorms, not just lightning, but due to these downbursts. And in July of this month in 1977, straight line winds blew down hundreds of trees in a county in Wisconsin, and you can see it online. It looks like the lawn after you mow the lawn, and the grass is just laying down. Those are actually trees in a forest due to winds from a thunderstorm. And so the next thing was hail. Hail can cause about up to $1 billion in damage to property and crops each year. And then last but not least, the flash flooding that can happen within 6 hours, often within 3 hours after those thunderstorms. And it catches people off guard by that high, fast moving water that we might experience while traveling, or people are trapped in homes or businesses. And those cute little streams and creeks, in our neighborhood, they can, like Dr. Carroll said, and the highway underpasses and city streets, they could become raging torrents. And
Mhm.
most flash flood deaths occur at night when people are trapped in cars. So, what is a severe thunderstorm watch? Like Dr. Dietrich said, when you hear the watches and warnings, pay attention. Uh, a severe thunderstorm watch means conditions that are favorable for development of severe storms. A severe thunderstorm warning is that means that severe thunderstorms have been detected by the National Weather Service Doppler radar, and or a reliable report has been received as far as sightings of thunderstorms. Now, did you know that there are particular areas where thunderstorms are more likely to occur? Did you guys know that?
No,
No, I didn't.
I
No.
didn't know.
tell us.
So across much of Georgia and in central and southern South Carolina, there are 50 to 70 days of the year in which they have thunderstorms. And they most often happen in the spring and the summer, during the afternoon or the evening. But in those that hot spot there, Georgia, South Carolina, they can happen year round and at all hours. And I know, living in Washington, D.C., the 4th of July as a child, it would be so hot. And then every afternoon, it seemed like every 4th of July in the afternoon, there'd be a severe thunderstorm. And I'd be praying that it would stop in time to go down to the National Mall and see the fireworks. And it usually did. You're sitting on wet grass, but you got to see the fireworks. So, what's the best defense as far as safety during thunderstorms? Number one, keep your eye on the sky and stay tuned to your local weather stations. And know this, if you can hear thunder, you are close enough to be struck by lightning.
Oh.
So one thing, so if you're outdoors, don't bathe or swim outdoors when lightning, when a thunderstorm is nearby. When lightning strikes water, several thousand amps are distributed through that mass of water. So if you're on a boat that's on water, get out of the boat, get away from that body of water if you can. Avoid open spaces, isolated objects, high ground, avoid high ground, and avoid high, pointy, isolated metallic objects. Mountains aren't made of metal, they're made of stone, but they get struck by lightning many times a year because they're high and pointy and often isolated. The Empire State Building gets struck by lightning about 23 times a year, the Empire State Building in New York.
Wow.
Okay, don't hide under trees. Objects that are isolated on a landscape are at increased risk of being struck by lightning. And living in my grandmother's house growing up, I can still see a tree in the backyard that had been struck by lightning, and you could see the burnt part of the trunk and then the burnt part on the ground as it ricocheted off the tree. I can still see that clearly in my mind. So if you are outside, if you can, get into a sturdy enclosed building or a hard top automobile. I know people worry about metal and, the conduction of electricity and all, but it's actually that hard top that that is what protects you during a thunderstorm. If you are inside, stay away from windows. Excuse me. All this talk about water's got me thirsty. Stay away from windows, stay away from electrical equipment, corded phones, wires, television cables, computers, plumbing, and metal doors. So that's one myth. If just because you're in the house during a thunderstorm, that doesn't mean that you're 100% safe. There are still things in that house that are vulnerable. Unplug appliances. They can be damaged even if lightning fails to strike your home. A strike anywhere in the distribution grid that your home is on can generate over voltages that can follow that grid to your house and damage your electronics. So, and then people say, is it dangerous to watch television during a thunderstorm? It isn't dangerous to you to watch TV in a thunderstorm, but it is dangerous to your TV for you to watch TV in a thunderstorm. Okay, because the electronics in the TV set are vulnerable. Another thing to do is disconnect your internet cable, as the modems are vulnerable to lightning strikes. So now that we got the safety parts out of the way, I just wanted to address some other myths and facts about lightning. One very important one is if a lightning victim is electrified, if you touch them, you'll be electrocuted. That's a myth. The fact is, the human body does not store electricity. It's perfectly safe to touch a human being to give them first aid. Okay, this is, you don't want to imagine someone dying because people were afraid to give CPR because they were afraid they were going to get electrocuted. You don't have to worry about that. Another thing is if it's not raining or if there aren't clouds overhead, you're safe from lightning. Now, yeah, this was shocking to me. Lightning often strikes 3 miles, more than 3 miles away from the center of the thunderstorm, far outside the thunderstorm cloud. And in Houston, you can, since it's so flat here, you can sometimes see thunderstorms in the distance, like wandering around the area. And you think that you're safe because you're 5 miles away. They call it bolts from the blue, but those are lightning strikes that can happen 10 to 15 miles from the thunderstorm. So that was big news to me. And for all the sports heads out there, this seems like common sense, but if a thunderstorm threatens while you're outside playing a game, it's okay to finish before seeking shelter, like if it hasn't started raining.
No.
Many lightning casualties occur because people don't seek shelter soon enough.
Right.
So no game is worth death or lifelong injury. Seek proper shelter immediately if you hear thunder. And then lastly, metal, people wearing metal during thunderstorms. Structures. So the myth is structures with metal or metal on the body, like jewelry, cell phones, MP3 players, watches, those things attract lightning. And the fact is that it's height, again, pointy shapes and isolation, which are the dominant factors controlling where a lightning bolt will strike. The presence of metal makes absolutely no difference as far as where lightning strikes.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, there are many more myths, but yeah, I'll leave those to you to look up. I got a lot of more information from the National Weather Service. So
Yes.
information, check that place out.
Oh,
That's
Great,
all I
great.
I think we all learned a lot caring. And again, these are all events that involve water. So we want to expand our vocabulary, our awareness, and our information, not only for ourselves, but of course, we extend this out to our patients, our families, and now with this incredible audience that we have watching and joining in. So, Dr. Khadijah, don't you have a special emergency kit that you could tell us a little bit about? And maybe you could start us off telling us what some of your other products and services will be. Dr. Dietrich, the same. And then we'll go ahead and get out of here and let everybody get on with the rest of their evening and hopefully a good night's sleep.
Definitely. And yeah, thank you, Dr. Carol. So yeah, just in time for summer, I have the mobile MD kit. There are first aid kits, and then there is the mobile MD kit. This, after looking at umpteen other first aid kits that seem to be a collection of gauze and bandages, or looking at like the huge kits that seem to have everything but that are hard to store. I was motivated to come up with this kit that is, so basically this kit is assembled from 20 years of experience seeing people in the ER for things that they could have stabilized or treated on their own. If they only had like, a little something here or there. So whereas my kit does have bandages and gauze, things like that. It has the 2x2s and the 4x4s and all that. I also have a special material to help with nosebleeds, or say if you cut your finger, and it doesn't, you can see that it doesn't need stitches, but it just won't stop bleeding. I have this special material. This brand's called Bleed Cease that you can use to help stop the bleeding. I've had a number of patients come for that very injury, and we hold pressure for 5 minutes without looking at it. We hold steady pressure for 5 minutes and it stops. Or we put this on and the person is almost angry at themselves for coming to the ER for this kind of thing. No, once they realize how simple the treatment was. My kid has splinter removers. It's got eye wash, Ace Wrap, a couple pair of gloves, things like that. And it also has a CPR face shield, so that, just like we were talking about, fearing to give a CPR to someone who's, been struck by lightning. You don't have to stand helplessly by just because you don't want to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on a stranger, or, someone. You can still do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation in addition to those chest compressions. So, and it has all this and more. It even has splints, scissors and forceps, things like that. And it's all in a case that's large enough to hold a number of things, like 25 different supplies. But you can slide this under your car seat, and it has holes in the handle if you want to hang it on the wall. And, it comes in a waterproof box that's easy to see with a nice label on it. So, check this out. It's coming soon to the mobilemdkit.com, or you can check it out on my website at drkadishamd.com. That's drkadishamd.com. And thank you guys. Thank you.
That sounds wonderful.
Exciting.
Speaking gifts. I mean, it seems like all households should have something like this in it. And I mean, that would be a great gift.
The ready and grab bag that you were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, this can be part of the get up and go.
Yes.
You're gonna need that. You're gonna need that.
Yes.
And it has antiseptic wash too, for like if you contact those flood waters that Dr. Carol was talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent.
And what about you, Dr. Dietrich?
Well, I'm very pleased to announce that I am going to be having a book signing coming up August 15th, which happens to be National Relaxation Day, because I'm the relaxation doctor. So This is the perfect day to start launching my book and getting out there and promoting it. It's actually going to be in Pecos, Texas at the Reeves County Library. It's going to be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And it's going to be facts, food, and fun. I'm going to give a brief discussion about my book, but then also I'm going to be signing my book for people who buy it. And there's going to be photo opportunities. And the first 17 people that arrive there will get a free gift. It's going to be amazing. Good times, good fun. People can also book me to actually come and speak at their organizations, their conferences, their groups, to help educate their coworkers and bosses and everybody. Whoever has a job is going to have stress. So what I do is I educate about how uncontrolled and unmanaged stress can hurt you or damage you professionally and physically, mentally, so many different ways. And I also offer ways on how to learn how to relax so that you can get your health back in order. So I'm looking forward to going out there and spreading the word. And please visit my website at drdietrichg.com to book me to speak, or if you even want to get my book early and then bring it onto the library to sign it, that's drdeitrickg.com. Or you can even get it at relaxedandreadybook.com, exactly how it sounds. And we'll see you there. This is the first of many book tours I'm going to be going on. And we're just going to launch a big way at this library on August 15th at the Reeves County Library from 6 to 8 p.m. More information will be coming. I'll be doing a live stream about it. So I'll see y'all there. And Dr. Carol, you want to take us on out?
I'm going to take us out. Now, I want everybody to come on over to my website, www.drcarolpenn.com. That's DrCarolPenn.com, and schedule a time to talk to me. This is where that one-on-one conversation can happen, where you can ask me a question, and I also need your help. I am taking my work that I do with meditation into our nation's school systems, where I use meditation as a tool of resiliency and self-regulation. We know from research that tensions and punishments hasn't really worked. That's an external force, just coming in on top of you and forcing you into a behavior that may or may not be corrective. And we know it's showing that it's not corrective for the long term. Really want to teach our nation's teachers and our nation's educators, our parents, and our children. I teach children as young as preschool age all the way up through high school and college. Principles of meditation, self-calming techniques, techniques to regulate their nervous system. And these are really tools of resiliency and self-regulation. If you'd like me to come into your child's school, please come visit my website, set up a time to talk with me, and that's www.drcarolpenn.com. And I'm just so much forward to doing another perspective in primary care with my sister docs, Dr. Dietrich and Dr. Asia. Ladies, thank you. This was fantastic. Be safe out there, you all.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Okay, bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye.